So I just had someone send me a message kind of asking about my views, and the person was saying, it's hard for them to understand what exactly my position is. And I guess this is partly because I have so many videos up, and I'm not sure what to do about that. If I should just start making a bunch of them unlisted, I don't know how to deal with that. I do have so many videos up, and it gets to be difficult to determine exactly what I guess my position is, or the view that I've been trying to espouse, given that there's so many videos and a lot of them are pretty long. They're 15, 20 minutes, stuff like this. Okay, I guess I'll try to see if I can't, as a summary update video here, kind of see if I can thumbnail sketch some of the things I've been trying to say over the last several years on my channel. Okay, I think one of the main things I've been saying, and I'm sure this will draw, concern, blowback, or whatnot, but I don't care, is that I don't understand what atheism is. I don't even get it. I To me, it's nonsensical. It's an ist position. It's one more ist. I'm a kind of an anti-ist. I I don't I wouldn't describe myself as believing in an organized religion. I don't think that to me is just more religious dogma, but I don't understand atheism. To me, the metaphysical question is the universe itself intelligent, and are we partly a manifestation of that intelligence? And if it's undesirable, okay, so some person's going to say, well, it's not intelligent because it has this feature, that feature. Well, that sounds like someone who has an intelligence enough to recognize what's wrong with it. And see, that's what I'm interested in. So I don't find the atheist position intelligible at all. And what I see is a lot of people who are, and this is sort of the trap that I think many people are in. They're caught in sort of one or the other. Many people, certainly not everyone. The more sophisticated people get, I think the less they fall into these traps. But the one trap is religious dogma. A person by fiat believes in life after death, in burning bushes, in resurrections, in super fantastical divine intervention, the supernatural, all this kind of stuff. On the other hand, is a person who, I guess, reduces all of life to a single layer of physical happenings without meaning, without, I guess, without any significance. They sort of want to force what they're going to call the purposelessness of life. And I think what happens is, for many people, they get seduced into some of these overdrawn expectations from religious dogma, and then there's this attack of, I guess, a rational thought or a scientific thought that makes the person go, oh, geez, I was misinformed, I was deluded. And then once the rug's been pulled out from under them, they're sort of gasping for strategies of meaning. A different way to say it is, it's sort of like this, that I think there are people who they hinge everything on the afterlife. Like, they think there has to be some kind of afterlife. And I don't think there does. I don't need it. It doesn't matter to me at all. It doesn't make me, um, if anything, let me try it this way. It makes me concerned that so many people are lodging all of their coins, all their eggs into the basket of the afterlife. No, it's the more that people think that this is a kind of dress rehearsal for the real show later, and that the ultimate, the real deal will come in the afterlife, but that this again is kind of a practice, or the non-essential. I think they're missing it. Yeah, and then once they no longer believe in the afterlife, then having believed that this was a dress rehearsal just sort of echoes through them, and they go, oh, what the heck? I don't even know what to do. What's the point of all of this? And I think, well, you don't need any of that. You don't need miracles, don't need burning bushes, don't need virgin births, Don't need divine intervention. You don't need a creator God. You don't need a guy in the sky. You don't need any of that. I don't find any of that intelligible, and yet I also don't find atheism intelligible. It's not that I disagree with it, I just don't understand it. I don't get it. What is all of this? And I don't mean it in the sense of there had to be a guy who created it. See, I don't think people hear what I'm saying. I'm saying, what is all of this? What does it mean to have consciousness? And I want to be careful here. I'm not trying to give, maybe I'm partly am. I guess I'm going to be honest there. I'm not trying to give a sort of mystic position like you're God or something like that. I don't know what we would mean by God. I certainly don't mean you're God in the sense of you are the cause and the source of the universe. No, I think you're a symptom and a manifestation of an orderliness and of a harmonious resonance that has somehow allowed various emergent forms of life, and life itself is the miracle. This is the miracle. Yeah, I don't need anything more. And it's the intensity of love, the intensity of meaningfulness that you're able to have in life. That's the point. How do we maximize meaning while minimizing the damage? How do we help people have genuinely significant lives, heroic lives, relevant lives, lives in which they can make great contributions in this world to, and again, it doesn't have to be to anything super fantastical. It doesn't have to be to build huge monuments and put your name on it or something like that. No, it could just be done a, anything. It could just be a job done in the spirit of trying to make it as best you can. It could be a conversation you have with someone. The actual conversation. Are you open to the eternal in the conversation? See, I think there's an issue of the eternal, which is different than the indefinitely ongoing. See, I think some people, when they talk about the eternal, they're thinking of the indefinitely ongoing, and they want to achieve something that goes on and on and on. And so maybe a person they'll try to write a book, or they'll make a statue, or they'll make a painting, or they'll do something that they hope will be remembered. That's very different than someone who, I guess, wants to dance or sing, or for me it's juggle. The well juggled juggle, it doesn't admit any hoarding. You can't hold it. And so you try to perform it. And the performance is beautiful. When it's well done, its beauty is partly that it doesn't last. And so take the amounts of love that you can feel for people. And I guess to me, in some sense, it's fascinating that we can have deep compassion for strangers. Certainly, humans can have hatreds for people they've never met. They can have fantastical, just demonic forms of beliefs that are racism, nationalism, sexism, all kinds of things. Just categorically despising people that they've never met, never encountered, and the only knowledge that they have of those people comes through symbols. Again, this is a problem. But by that same token, people can, I guess, think about themselves, their relation to the larger cosmos. People can have compassion and love for people they've never met. They can realize the tragic plight that is the human condition, that there's only one community, the community of the dying, and we're all dying together. Well, now what do we do? Now what do we do? I think the strategies are, how does one learn to bring meaning into one's life, despite the fact of the injustices, the hardships, and I do think, I honestly believe that there's more meaning and love than there is suffering in the world. Yes, I think that love and meaning is a larger context. That is, those are the contexts in which not only, I guess, do those contexts form a kind of blanket around and a coating around suffering that makes suffering so much more tolerable if it's done in the name of love or in the name of meaning. But oftentimes, for love or for meaning, people will encumber kinds of suffering. That is, suffering will be implied by the love, by the meaningfulness. And to that extent, the suffering is a kind of subset of it. I think part of the question is, does it matter if all of this will be forgotten? I mean, take a simple example. My dog. I don't know if many people who know me well. They know that I have a little Pomeranian named Kiki, and I love my little dog. I spend lots of time with her, and we go on walks, and we just hang out. And no words, no beliefs, just being there at a visceral level of silently enjoying organismal pleasures of a sunny day, and of the clouds, and of the leaves in the fall. And we, give pets, and we chase squirrels around, and, she gets to sniff things, and countless ways that I get pleasure from just hanging out with her. And I feel a deep amount of love for the dog. And I know that she will die one day. I've thought about it so many times, and part of me agonizes over it. I think, oh, it's almost too much. And then I think, what do I want? How greedy do I want to be? Do I really think that I should be entitled to these kinds of depths of love, the kind of pleasure that comes from loving something with no cost? Who do people think they are? When you start to think of what does it mean to have been born, to have tasted all the fruits of this, to know of all of it, to be able to contemplate existence. I mean, to be able to be, and then to ask about your being, to feel great intensities of love. And it's not all happy days in the park, don't get me wrong, to feel intense agony and suffering. Let's take that. I think some people know, I've talked about this in earlier videos, I had a blown disc when I was about 17 years old. And I had inflamed sciatica for the last 20 years. I've had a lumbar laminectomy. I've been in and out of, physical rehabilitation because of the leg pain. I've basically dealt with leg pain for, a good amount of my life. And I think, suffering is something that, physical pain seems to me to be something that is, it's horrible. It's not something you ever want to wish on anyone. It makes flesh wounds and other kinds of pain seem trivial compared to nerve pain. Anybody who's ever had real nerve pain, they know what I'm talking about. It's bad. You can pass out. Your blood pressure will elevate, and you'll just drop. It can be very severe. But I don't think that none of that would ever make me say, I wish I would have never been. I'm still able to find meaning and purpose. And, I think part of it is difficult for me because I've had, I was adopted, and I had the most loving, my parents are the most loving people you could imagine. It's hard for me to describe the kind of saint-like human beings that my parents are. I never ever questioned, and I feel guilty almost for the kind of benefit that I had in having such wonderful, wonderful parents who were very encouraging, just supportive and loving. And no matter how crazy my brother and I were, and we were crazy, and I was pretty wild, and we grew up young in Wisconsin, and it was kind of a miracle I survived my youth, and it's a miracle I got into college. It was and I don't mean miracle in some crazy way. People, calm down. It was absolutely unexpected. Probably shouldn't have happened given the trajectory that I was on. But yeah, I guess those are some of the things. I have lots and lots of friends who are both theists and Christians. I have lots of friends who are atheists. I try to listen to both of them. I guess I find myself oftentimes more comfortable in the company of atheists. I guess is much as that probably is odd, as much as I don't understand the position, I um, I find the religious dogma stuff to be really, nauseating, upsetting. I think some people are deluded, and they imagine that if they get rid of their delusions, they're going to fall into a kind of pit of meaninglessness. And I think I can see where their concerns are coming from. I see some people who they're in utter despair. They're in absolute despair. They're in a kind of pit of hell of having abandoned and betrayed their gods. That you can see it's Dante's deepest inner ring of hell. That there are people who were at some time deep believers who then couldn't believe, and now they're caught in the sort of negative image of it not being as they'd hoped. It's a bizarre form of ego narcissism that was grounded in super fantastical expectations. So that is, that's a legitimate concern. But I think there is I think there's a third option. There's a different way to come at it. I think there's a robust way to find meaning and purpose in your life. It has to do with asking who you are. Like, maybe people aren't who they think they are at all. Maybe they're much older and other than they think. Again, this is sort of the position that I've been trying to argue, that there is an ongoing event that includes you and is more than you, and language kind of hoodwinks us when we draw lines. Like I say, I'm over here and it's over there. And I'm not saying that I am the world, but I couldn't be me without it. And anything that I can't live without is partly me. So if I say, which is more me, the air or my lungs? See, I end up saying my lungs are me and the air isn't me. Or I'll say my heart. My heart's me, but the sun isn't me. And yet my heart wouldn't be the heart that it is without the air and the sun. And my lungs, they're a precast possibility of oxygen. I'm something that the earth is doing. I'm a place and moment of it emerging out of itself with a kind of turn back toward itself. Right? I mean, I think one can have a kind of Eastern, I guess it's somewhat of an Eastern orientation or an existential orientation, which it's sort of like humanity is a biotic film, that there's a several 100 million year ongoing symbiotic relationship of lots of different kinds of life, and that atop of that is a kind of film called humanity. I think we sometimes think of bacteria as, the bulk of humans, like somehow the bacteria are under our skin, are inside our bodies. But really, we're a kind of thin film atop a life that's much larger and other and older than we commonly think of. That um, we're a place and moment of the cosmos, and that one doesn't need an afterlife. One doesn't need divine intervention and a creator God. One doesn't need any of that. One needs to just open in deep, deep contemplation and in discussion with others about who are we, what is all of this. And none of it has to be an answer like, well, a God created it, or it doesn't have to be like that. But try to get to some of the deepest questions, which makes less sense. The universe always was, or it came out of nothing. When you get to the edge of the universe, what's on the other side? I mean, try to think about the number of people who don't believe in anything like a divinity, but are really committed to the idea of multiple universes and of, an infinity of multiverses. I'm not saying that there isn't the math to back those beliefs, but at a certain point, it starts to look a little bit like faith. It does. And it's a very different kind of faith, but it's a faith in a kind of intelligence. See, it sneaks back in the door that there does seem to be some kind of intelligence here in the cosmos that we want to recognize as more than just mere happenings. It is some kind of agency that makes a difference, that there is meaningful action here. And even if none of it gets remembered, the love that can be experienced here in the now, the actions that can be experienced in the now, they matter. It's just that simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. I think it's just that simple. Um, and yeah, I guess I don't know. People who expect to have had all of this and been given all of this, but for a free price, I think they're ungrateful. They don't realize how much they have been given, and I don't know, how do you get people to realize the degree to which you started with nothing and you get all of this and you still get death in the end. You're going to get to die anyway. Enjoy, celebrate that you get to be here now. And it's not stab and grab. It's not look out for you and you're going to maximize your pleasure pursuit of self-interest. I think the more you ask questions like who am I? What is all of this? What does actually make one happy? What is community? How is relevance and purpose related to what one has to give to the world? Oh, it becomes very apparent that this is a very, very rich domain, and this is not a dress rehearsal. Thanks.